Elden Ring has 6 endings that most players still don't understand. Every boss, every NPC, every hidden questline determines whether you restore a broken order or burn the entire world to ash. That's why today, I'm breaking down every single ending in Elden Ring and what they actually mean for the lands between, starting with the one ending nobody actually wants: Age of Fracture. The Age of Fracture is what happens when you do absolutely nothing. No side quests, no NPC dialogue, no exploration beyond the critical path. You beat Radagon and the Elden Beast, walk up to fractured Marika's corpse, and select Mend the Elden Ring. That's it. The game gives you the default ending for doing the bare minimum. Here's the thing. This ending requires defeating 2 Shardbearers for their great runes, then pushing through Morgott, the Fire Giant, Malekith, Godfrey, Hoaraloo, Radagon, and the Elden Beast. Literally every mandatory boss in the game, but 0 optional content. No questlines, no mending runes, no Ronnie, no frenzied flame, nothing. The cutscene shows the Tarnished sitting on the Elden throne beneath the burned but still standing Erd Tree. A female narrator delivers the line that echoes across 4 of the game's 6 endings. The Fallen Leaves tell a story of how a Tarnished became Elden Lord, and the Golden Order returns. The Greater Will's influence persists. Immortality continues. Everything that caused the shattering in the first place remains completely unaddressed. This is From Software's Link the Fire 2 ending. The safe option that feels like victory but actually just perpetuates a fundamentally broken cycle. The Erd Tree stands, the Two Fingers plans are fulfilled. Marika is restored as a god, and the exact same catastrophe that destroyed the world once can absolutely happen again because you changed nothing about the underlying structure. The community calls this the neutral ending, but that's generous. It's the ending you get when you don't engage with the game's systems, when you ignore every NPC begging for help. Achievement statistics reveal only 19.6% of players globally have the Elden Lord achievement that covers this ending plus 3 variants. On Xbox, 11.25%. These numbers include everyone who got any of the 4 Elden Lord endings, meaning the actual percentage for Age of Fracture specifically is even lower. Players actively avoid this ending by pursuing literally any side content. But here's the kicker. The Shadow of the Erd Tree DLC completely recontextualizes what you're actually restoring. Through Count Emir's questline, you learn the Greater Will might not even be connected to the lands between anymore. The Two Fingers operate on outdated information. You're pledging allegiance to a cosmic force that potentially abandoned you centuries ago. The Golden Order you restore is a monument to a god who stopped caring. This ending makes no sense as a victory. The Tarnished becomes Elden Lord of a system designed to exploit them. Queen Marika, who orchestrated the shattering and manipulated every event in the game, returns to power. The Outer Gods maintain their influence. Death remains confined. Nothing improves. At least the Age of Fracture is quick and painless, unlike the 3 Mending Rune endings that require you to actually understand what you're fixing. The Perfect Order. Goldmask's Age of Order is the rationalist ending. The ending for players who think the Golden Order isn't fundamentally broken, just poorly administered. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out. This ending requires one of the game's smartest quest chains and reveals the single biggest lore bomb in Elden Ring. The questline starts with Brother Corin at Round Table Hold, a devout fundamentalist who worships the Golden Order like scripture. He mentions Goldmask, a legendary sage who spends his entire life contemplating the Order's mysteries. You find Goldmask standing motionless on a ridge north of the artist's shack in Altus Plateau, staring at the Erd Tree. He never speaks, just gestures. Corin translates his movements like a prophet, interpreting divine signs. You track them across Altus Plateau to the forest-spanning Great Bridge, then into Leyndell itself. Goldmask keeps studying, keeps gesture, getting closer to some revelation. Then the quest hits its critical moment. Inside the Erd Tree Sanctuary in Leyndell, near a statue, there's a message written in golden light, completely invisible unless you cast the incantation Law of Regression directly in front of it. Here's the problem. Law of Regression requires 37 intelligence to cast. Exactly 37. If you're running a pure strength build or a faith build for the incantation, you need to respec at Renala or pump points specifically for this one moment. The game never tells you this is coming. Thousands of players miss this quest because their stat distribution literally prevents them from reading a hidden message. Cast it anyway, and the message appears. Radagon is Marika. 3 words that shatter the entire game's foundation. The god who shattered the Elden Ring and the champion who tried to repair it are the same person. Marika rebelled against herself. Every war, every death, every tragedy stems from one being's internal conflict made cosmic. Show Corin this revelation, and he breaks. His entire faith collapses. He can't reconcile the Order's perfection with the fact that its god is fundamentally divided. But Goldmask processes it different. He keeps thinking, keeps calculating, and he reaches a conclusion that Corin calls, quote, 5, after you burn the Erd Tree at the Forge of the Giants, and Leyndell becomes the Ashen Capital. You find Goldmask's corpse near the Colosseum. His body sits in perfect meditation pose, dead from the revelation's weight or from starvation after achieving enlightenment. You loot the mending rune of perfect order from his remains. Here's what the rune actually does. Goldmask discovered that the Golden Order's imperfections come from, quote, 6 divine beings make mistakes. They have petty desires, contradictory goals, emotional breakdowns. Marika shattered the Elden Ring because she was grieving Godwin's death. The entire world burned because one god had feelings. The mending rune of perfect order embeds a transcendental ideology directly into the Elden Ring that removes divine caprice. It makes gods accountable, constrains their free will, prevents their personal drama from destroying civilization. Use this rune when mending the Elden Ring, and the ending cutscene shows the Erd tree glowing with perfect golden light. No imperfections, no cracks, no burns. The system persists, but the relationship between gods and mortals fundamentally changes. This is the Enlightenment ending. Rational reform instead of revolution. The community generally considers it one of the better outcomes because it fixes the actual problem without destroying the structure that billions of lives depend on. But wait, is constraining divine free will itself a form of tyranny? You're creating God-binding laws that treat deity autonomy as a bug to be patched. The greater will still influences everything. Immortality continues. You just made the dictatorship more efficient. Critical warning for anyone attempting this. You must solve the Radagon riddle before burning the Erd tree. The moment you kindle the flame at the Forge of the Giants, Lindell transforms into the Ashen Capital and the Erd tree sanctuary becomes inaccessible. Miss that window and Goldmask's quest fails permanently. The intelligence requirement alone makes this one of the most commonly failed quests despite being relatively short. If you think rational reformation is too conservative, the next ending lets death itself return to a world that forgot what dying means. Age of the Duskborn. Fia's Age of the Duskborn is the ending where death finally returns to a world that spent centuries pretending it didn't exist. And that's not hyperbole. The entire Golden Order was built on confining the rune of death, trapping destined death inside Malekith's blade, making everyone functionally immortal. This ending breaks that seal and lets people die again. The questline starts innocuously. Fia, the deathbed companion at Round Table Hold, offers to hold you. She gives you a buff and secretly places a health debuff on you that lasts until you use the Baldekin's Blessing consumable she gave you. Players spent weeks debating whether her hugs were worth the hidden HP reduction. Fia asks you to deliver a weathered dagger to someone. The dagger belongs to the rightful owner, she says. That owner is D, Hunter of the Dead, the knight who despises those who live in death with religious fervor. Give him the dagger and continue playing. Eventually return to Round Table Hold and you find D's corpse in a pool of blood. Fia murdered him and vanished. Here's where the quest expands across half the game. You need to clear Nokron, Eternal City, after defeating Starscourge Radon. Navigate through the Siofra Aqueduct. Reach the Deeproot Depths, a massive underground zone beneath the lands between where the roots of the Erd Tree terminate. There, near the roots, you find Fia lying beside the grotesque corpse of Godwin the Golden. Godwin's body is no longer remotely human. He's become a cancerous mass of eyes and tentacles spreading through the roots like infection. The Prince of Death, the first demigod to die during the Night of the Black Knives, killed in soul but not in body because the rune of death was split. His soulless corpse grew into this monstrosity. But here's the thing. You can't complete Fia's quest with just this. You need the curse mark of death, a half-wheel-shaped rune carved into flesh. It's located on Ronnie's original body at the top of the Divine Tower of Liurnia. Getting there requires the Carrion inverted statue from Ranni's questline, which means you need to progress through Caria Manor, join Ranni's service, and help her until she gives you the statue as payment. You cannot get Fia's ending without doing part of Ranni's quest. Take the curse mark to Fia in Deeproot Depths. She thanks you, lies down beside Godwin's corpse, and falls asleep. A new prompt appears. Enter the deathbed. Dream. You're pulled into a nightmare arena, wreathed in death lightning, where Lich Dragon Fortisax, Godwin's loyal dragon companion, attacks on sight. Fortisax stayed with Godwin even as death corruption consumed them both, fighting the spreading rot from within the dream. Defeat Fortisax, and you wake beside Fia's actual corpse. She died creating the mending rune of the Death Prince, a rune born from lying with Godwin's body and gestating the power of true death. Loot it from her, and you can use it to mend the Elden Ring at the end. The ending cutscene is visually distinct from the standard Elden Lord scene. The Erd Tree becomes pale and leafless, drained of golden light. Thick fog engulfs the entire lands between, spreading from the roots outward. The fog represents dead souls being released from the Erd Tree's roots, where they've been trapped for generations. The narrator adds one crucial line: the golden curse is broken. Death is no longer confined. What this actually means for the world is complicated. Natural death returns. The cycle of life and death resumes. Those who live in death, the undead beings persecuted by Golden Order fundamentalists for existing wrong, are legitimized. They committed committed no crime except dying improperly when death itself was forbidden. Rogier's dialogue during the game frames them as victims. They have every right to life, or rather, they have every right to proper death. The community generally considers this one of the better endings. It's bittersweet, but fundamentally just. You're correcting the Golden Order's original sin, the imprisonment of death itself. George R.R. Martin's influence shows here through the thematic weight of immortality's cost. Critical note for completion. The curse mark of death is only accessible after obtaining the Carrion inverted statue from Ranni, and if Dee's brother finds Fia before you finish her quest, he kills her and you lose access to the deathbed dream fight entirely. At least Fia's ending offers hope mixed with sorrow. The next ending offers only spite, disgust, and a curse that infects every soul forever. Blessing of Despair. The Dung Eater's ending is the most reviled outcome in Elden Ring, not the most evil, because evil implies some corrupted nobility or tragic fall. This ending is pure spite weaponized into cosmic law. It curses every living soul in the lands between and every soul that will ever be born forever. The questline is deliberately repulsive from the start. The Dung Eater's red phantom appears at Round Table Hold after you reach Leyndell, sitting in a locked room growling threats about defiling corpses. His name isn't metaphorical. He literally consumes excrement as part of his defilement rituals. Every NPC who mentions him does so with disgust. Blackguard Big Boggart, the prawn seller, warns you to stay away from the loathsome Dung Eater, with audible terror in his voice. You obtain the sewer jail key from the subterranean shunning grounds beneath Leyndell. Navigate through the nightmare sewer system filled with omens, imps, and worse. Find the Dung Eater's actual body imprisoned in a jail cell, alive but unable to move. His phantom at Round Table Hold is just his projection. Then travel to the outer moat of Leyndell and fight his invading red phantom. Defeat him, and he begs you to defile his corporeal body with seedbed curses. Here's where the quest becomes a manhunt across the entire game. You need 5 seedbed curses total. These are the defiled corpses of the Dung Eater's victims, bodies so thoroughly cursed that their souls cannot return to the Erd Tree even in death. Each curse is hidden on a specific corpse in a specific location. One in the Round Table Hold room where Dung Eater's phantom sits, one in Leyndell near the Avenue balcony, one in Leyndell's fortified manor, one at Volcano Manor, one in Elphael past the prayer room. 2 critical traps destroy this quest permanently if you're not careful. First, the Leyndell seedbed curses become completely inaccessible after you burn the Erd Tree and the capital transforms into ash. The entire city layout changes and those corpses vanish. Miss them before the Forge of the Giants and you cannot complete this ending. Second, if you give the Dung Eater Seluvis's potion during a separate questline, he becomes a puppet summon, but the quest ends immediately. You get a cool spirit ash and lose access to the entire ending. Feed all 5 seedbed curses to the Dung Eater's imprisoned body. He devours them, then dies, and you loot the mending rune of the Fell Curse from his corpse. The rune is warm and pulses with living malice. Use this rune to mend the Elden Ring, and the ending cutscene is the only one with an additional narration line. A new order will be conferred, the reviled curse that defined our age, the Blessing of Despair. The Tarnished sits on the Elden Throne, and the Fell Curse embeds itself directly into the Elden Ring's fabric, becoming fundamental law. Here's what that actually means. Every living being in the lands between present and future becomes Omen, those horned, persecuted beings locked in sewers and hunted by society. The curse ensures their souls are defiled so thoroughly they cannot return to the Erd Tree. This severs the Greater Will's ability to collect souls entirely. The Erd Tree becomes useless as a divine repository. The Dung Eater's logic is twisted egalitarianism. If everyone is cursed, no one can be scorned for being cursed. If all souls are equally defiled, the hierarchy of blessed and damned collapses. Persecution requires someone to persecute. When everyone shares the same curse, discrimination loses meaning. But here's where it gets complicated. Roderica's dialogue, if you complete this quest, reveals something crucial. She can hear in the Malison, another fearsome order taking its place. The curse isn't chaos, it's structure. A new system built on suffering instead of grace. The mending rune of the Fell Curse doesn't destroy the concept of order. It replaces divine blessing with divine curse as the organizing principle. The item description adds one cryptic line that leaves room for debate. The reviled curse, so that the reviled and wretched may be born anew. For every curse, a cursed blessing. Maybe the Dung Eater genuinely believes he's liberating the oppressed by making oppression impossible. Maybe he's the most honest character about what the Golden Order actually was. The community considers this the worst ending. Ranni's ending removes divine influence. The Frenzied Flame ending destroys everything. But the Dung Eater's ending perpetuates existence while making every moment of that existence suffering. You don't get the mercy of annihilation. salvation. You just get cursed forever. If you think cursing everyone forever is bad, wait until you hear about the ending that doesn't curse people. It just burns them alive. Age of the Stars. Ranni's Age of the Stars requires the longest quest line in Elden Ring. It spans Limgrave, Liurnia, Caelid, Nokron, 3 underground rivers, the Lake of Rot, and the Moonlight Altar. It involves assassinating targets, serving a witch, befriending a half-wolf warrior, and placing a ring on the finger of a 4-armed goddess. And more players chose this ending than the default ending you get for doing literally nothing. The quest starts at Ranni's Rise after clearing Caria Manor. Ranni the Witch, sitting in the tower's top floor, asks you to serve her. She's an Empyrean, a being chosen by the Two Fingers to potentially become a god, but she rejected that destiny by killing her own body during the Night of the Black Knives. Now she exists as a spirit inhabiting a doll. You recruit her followers. Blade the Half-Wolf, a warrior created by the Two Fingers to serve Ranni, but programmed to go mad if she ever betrays the greater will. Preceptor Seluvis, a sorcerer obsessed with turning people into puppets. War Counselor Iji, the giant blacksmith who loves Ranni like a daughter. Then you defeat Starscourge Radon, the demigod holding the stars in stasis, to open Nokron. Inside Nokron, you find the Finger Slayer blade, a weapon forged from a corpse, to kill the Two Fingers. Deliver it to Ranni, and she gives you the Carian inverted statue, then vanishes. From Renna's Rise, a teleporter sends you to Ainsel River, Maine. There you pick up a miniature Ranni doll. The doll doesn't respond. Pick it up again. Silence. Pick it up a third time, and Ranni finally speaks from the doll, annoyed you kept bothering her. She orders you to kill the Baleful Shadow, an assassin sent by the Two Fingers to eliminate her. Defeat it, and loot the discarded palace key. This key opens a chest in Renala's boss arena containing the Dark Moon Ring. Then you cross the Lake of Rot, a nightmare poison swamp that requires either immunity or constantly chugging flasks. Fight through Noxtella. Defeat Astel, natural born of the Void, a cosmic horror dropped from space by the Greater Will as punishment. Ascend to the Moonlight Altar. Enter the Cathedral of Manus Celis and find Ranni's real body, a massive 4-armed corpse. Place the Dark Moon Ring on her finger. She wakes, thanks you, calls you her consort. This is a marriage. You've wed a demigod who orchestrated the greatest crime in history to free herself from divine servitude. After defeating the final boss, a blue summon sign appears on the ground near fractured Marika. Touch it instead of Marika's corpse. Ranni appears as a towering goddess in flowing robes, her 4 arms visible, her face serene. She lifts your hand and places the Dark Moon Ring on your finger. The moon rises where the Erd Tree once stood. The narration shifts to Ranni's voice, into fear, doubt, and loneliness, as the path stretcheth into darkness. Here's where everything breaks. That English translation is wrong. The Japanese text says something fundamentally different. Ranni doesn't want to impose fear, doubt, and loneliness on people. She wants to remove the order from mortals' reach. Keep it distant, invisible, intangible. Her exact meaning translated properly. Quote 15. She's not denying people their emotions. She's ensuring no god, no outer god, no divine power can ever manipulate their lives again. The mistranslation was never patched. English-speaking players spent years thinking Ranni's ending was cold and isolating when it's actually the most liberating ending in the game. What actually happens is revolutionary. Ranni completely abolishes the Golden Order. The Dark Moon replaces the Erd Tree. She deliberately keeps her new order at a cosmic distance from the lands between. No guidance, no grace, no divine interference. Mortals face freedom from divine tyranny at the cost of divine comfort. The Greater Will's influence is permanently severed. You become Ranni's consort and depart with her on a 1,000-year voyage into space. The statistics are staggering. On Steam, 44.8% of tracked players completed Age of the Stars, compared to 39.2% who got any Elden Lord achievement. Global percentages show 25.9% versus 19.6%. Xbox confirms the pattern at 12.97% versus 11.25%. More players completed a sprawling multi-hour quest line spanning half the game than walked up and touched Marika after the final boss. Nobody talks about this enough. Critical warning. If you inherited the Frenzied Flame, Ranni's blue summon sign will not appear. The Frenzied Flame locks you into that ending immediately. The only way to undo it is using Miquella's Needle in Dragon Lord Placidus Axe's arena, in crumbling Farum Azula after completing Millicent's entire questline and defeating Millennia. Miss that, and you cannot get Ranni's ending even if you complete every step correctly. If you think removing all divine influence is radical, the final ending doesn't remove the gods. It just burns literally everything to ash. Lord of Frenzied Flame. The Lord of Frenzied Flame ending burns everything. The Erd Tree, the lands between, every living creature, every soul, every structure. It melts reality itself back into primordial chaos and returns existence to the undifferentiated state that existed before. The Greater Will split the one great into individual beings. This is the only ending with an early lock-in that cannot be reversed without completing one of the hardest quest chains in the game. Reaching this ending requires navigating the subterranean shunning grounds beneath Leyndell, the sewer system filled with omens and poison. Defeat Mog the Omen at the bottom, behind the chest in his arena. Hit the altar to reveal a hidden wall, then descend through one of gaming's most notorious platforming sections, a vertical shaft lined with wooden beams where one misstep means plummeting to your death and restarting the entire climb. At the bottom, you reach the Frenzied Flame prescription, a sealed door covered in warnings. Approach it and nothing happens. The door won't open. You need to unequip every single piece of armor. Stand completely naked before the door. Then it opens. The 3 fingers wait inside. A massive hand with 3 fingers instead of 2, the cosmic opposite of the 2 fingers that serve the greater will. The moment you approach, the 3 fingers grab you, brand you, burn the frenzied flame directly into your body with full body scars and glowing yellow eyes. The lock-in happens immediately. You cannot undo this without Miquella's needle. Every other ending becomes inaccessible the second the 3 fingers touch you. The final cutscene is the most visually dramatic in the game. The Erd Tree erupts in yellow-orange chaotic flame. Waves of fire roll across the entire lands between, consuming everything. The Tarnished stands alone in a scorched hellscape, body cracking with frenzied flame leaking through the skin. No narrator speaks. This is the only ending without narration. Just fire, just destruction, just the frenzied flame seeking to melt everything back into one. Here's where the lore gets tragic. The 3 fingers represent the collective suffering of the merchants who were persecuted and buried alive beneath Leyndell by the Golden Order. They weren't criminals. They weren't threats. They were just merchants. The Golden Order feared their connection to the frenzied flame, so they imprisoned entire caravans in the sewers and sealed them underground to die slowly. Their collective agony birthed the flame of frenzy. Their despair became a cosmic force powerful enough to undo creation itself. Hyetta, the blind maiden who guides you to the 3 fingers if you feed her shabriri grapes, calls it the distant light and begs you to melt it all away with the yellow chaos flame until all is one again. The frenzied flame isn't evil for the sake of evil. It's the inevitable endpoint of suffering so profound it rejects existence itself. But here's the secret that turns this ending into content gold, the Melina variation. If you inherit the frenzied flame before Melina sacrifices herself at the Forge of the Giants, she refuses to burn for you. She abandons you permanently. You kindle the flame yourself at the forge, becoming the fuel instead. Then, after the credits, Melina appears alive. One eye opens. It's violet, purple, the color associated with the Gloam-Eyed Queen, the mysterious figure who once wielded destined death before Malekith defeated her. Melina speaks directly to you. Lord of frenzied flame, I will seek you as far as you may travel, to deliver you what is yours, destined death. This post-credits scene only triggers with the pre-forge sequence. Get the frenzied flame after Melina dies, and you get the standard ending with no Melina appearance. Her internal game file name is Marika of Daughter, strongly suggesting she's Marika's child. The implication is that Melina will hunt you across the cosmos to kill you with destined death, the one power that can permanently end a god. Reversing the frenzied flame requires one of the game's most demanding chains. Complete Millicent's entire questline from the Church of the Plague through the Aeonia Swamp, Gowry's Shack, the Shaded Castle, Altus Plateau, the Windmill Village, and finally, Elphael. Choose to help her instead of betraying her. Defeat Melania, Blade of Miquella, the hardest boss in the game with a 329 hit combo and a waterfowl dance that one-shots most builds. Use the unalloyed gold needle on the Scarlet Aeonia flower in her arena to receive Miquella's needle. Then use it in Dragon Lord Placidus Axe's arena, in Crumbling Pharaoh Missoula, a boss you reach by lying down on a crumbling platform and time traveling. Only then is the frenzied flame removed. Only then can you choose a different ending. Achievement statistics show roughly 15 to 17% of players globally chose this ending. It's the least popular of the 3 achievement endings. Most players either don't find the hidden frenzied flame door or deliberately avoid it because the consequences are so severe. But the Melina post-credits scene makes it essential for anyone creating comprehensive Elden Ring content. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.